Hello and welcome to this Electude UK Administrator webinar. The topics that we're going to cover today are to carry out an initial administrator setup, to show you how to add teachers and staff, to show you how to reset teacher passwords and change the rights, to view and change any privacy settings, to understand additional settings for you in the domain, and then there'll be a question and answer session at the end. The presenters today are myself, Kat Treanor, and my colleague Dan Perry, and our contact information is on the screen right now, and we'll also show it at the end of the webinar. I'm going to pass over to my colleague Dan to explain the first settings on the administrator login.
Hi, so when you guys log into your specific domain, so remembering that you're entering the web address for your domain in the web bar, okay, do not use Google search. Once you've entered that, you'll then be faced with these three options. Now, the difference with the administration login is it is only a password. Okay, so there's no username associated with it. And the administrator is somebody that is our point of contact primarily between Electude and the college, but also the person that will be adding the teachers and effectively maintains the overall control of the administration side of things for your domain. So with the password in, we hit OK. Okay, and then we're faced with the standard format for Electude where we have the tabs across the top. So we have your teachers, students, the new tab now, which is called News, all right, where you'll receive any updates, etc., that affect the content or your admin domain, and also the Settings tab for the administration side. So what we're going to look at first is the Teachers tab. Okay, so this is where you will add or remove teachers. So when you initially activate your site for the first time, you would have accepted the terms of service and set your own password. And then before any teacher can log in and see the content, you need to add their teacher account. So it's quite a simple process. On the Teachers tab, we hit the plus icon. And here we can then add the teacher's email address. And then we are faced with some additional options here. So you can set what we call teacher profiles, and we'll cover that in just a second. But what we have done on your site for kind of ease really is we set up some predetermined ones, and if they work for your college, then absolutely fine. If not, I'll talk you through in just a second how to create new ones. The receive feedback, so that is when a student is logged in and they get a speech mark kind of question bubble down on the bottom right hand side when they're logged in. That is so the student can obviously send you as a teacher a message to say, hey, I don't understand this content, or can we run through this? And by default, the teacher feedback is always turned off. Okay, so you guys decide per teacher profile whether you wish to activate this or not. Some of the other things then are your rights. Now, again, if we set these teacher profiles, then every teacher you add, they would have essentially the same rights if you assign them the same profile, or you can have no profile and then you can control them per teacher login. So things like being able to edit student groups and students themselves, being able to delete students, assigning content, etc. And you know, these will vary between users, but again, I'll talk about these in just a moment with the teacher's profile. You can also then, right at the very bottom, there's one that says access to. Okay, so this is dependent on how your teacher groups are set up. So if you teach across different campuses, you can set your group structure up so it's split by campus, and in which case you can control that if a teacher only teaches on campus X, they can only access that. Or if they teach on campus Y, then they can be on that one as well. Okay, if you leave it as all groups, they'll have access to all students and all student groups that have been created. Once you put the teacher's email address in, you can add multiples. So if you want to put in another one, you can type it straight in there, or you can paste in a list. But once you've done that, you just hit add, and then those teachers will be sent an automatic email from Electude LMS asking them to log in. So the other thing we're going to talk about is teacher profiles. Okay, so on the left hand side there at the bottom, we can see an icon that says Teacher Profiles. And if we click that, you can see the 3 that we've already put in for you, which you can use, or you can create your own. So just for example, we're going to create one now. So we hit the plus and we give that teacher profile a name. So this is where we've called one an administrator or support staff, teacher trainer. Okay. You can also choose whether the feedback is settable by teacher account, or whether you say no teacher is going to be able to receive it, or yes, all teachers should be able to receive it. And again, you can do your rights here. Now, the reason these rights can be quite important is it might be that you have kind of trainer assessors that you want them to be able to view the students' results, but you don't want them interfering by deleting students, giving them content that they shouldn't have, etc. Likewise, you might have other support staff that work within your department and they need to be able to see how a particular student's getting on. Or you want someone like a teacher to be able to go in and add their own students, but likewise you might choose to remove this option from them, and then you can control that, for example, just as an administrator. So that's teacher profiles. Once you hit add there, okay, and then if we go back into add a new teacher, and then we go to teacher profile, we can see this test one has now appeared. Now, a new function that we have on our LMS is if we delete anything, okay, we now have 7 days to retrieve it. So if you create a teacher account and then by accident you delete it, or maybe the teacher has left your college now, you can go in there and delete it. But if it is an accident and you want to reinstate it, on the left hand side you go to deleted teachers, okay, and they'll appear there. And this will only be for 1 week. After that, they are permanently purged from the system. You can also, if you've got a lot of teachers at your college, you can import them via a CSV file or a spreadsheet. Okay, and if you need to do this, you can basically create yourself a spreadsheet or a CSV file with those headers that are shown there under the word columns, so username, first name, surname, etc. And then you upload your CSV file, hit add, and it will automatically put them in there for you. Okay, if you do need any assistance on this, please reach out to either Kat or myself, whoever looks after your account. Alternatively, on the right hand side, just under the X, you'll see a question mark. And you will see this on pretty much every page within Electude. If you hit the question mark, it will take you to the help manual section, which is relevant to the bit of Electude that you're currently in. All right, it is actually the whole manual, but it will just take you to the subsection that you're working with. One other thing that you might get asked to do is a teacher tries to log in and they cannot remember their password. As an administrator, you can actually go in and change it for them. So you go into the Teachers tab, you find the teacher that's forgotten their password, click on their name, hit the pencil button there to edit, and at the bottom there, you can change their password for them. Okay. You can also update their email addresses if that's changed, or what profile they have access to. All right. And again, once you hit OK, it would automatically set their new password for them. And then when they log in, they'll be asked to change it. The teachers themselves can also do this. Okay. So if you X out of Electude and go back to the login screen, by clicking on the word teacher, they get a forgotten password link. Also, for the administrators, if you click on the administration button, you will also see that. Okay, and the email address that it will email with a temporary password is the one that we've set up initially for carrying out the site. All right. Now, again, as we've mentioned before in other webinars, we cannot see, for GDPR purposes and data protection, we cannot see these user details. Okay, so if you phone us up or email us and say, hey, Kat, Dan, I can't remember my details to log in. When we log in, we actually just see asterisks. Okay, so we can't actually see individual teacher accounts. All right, the only thing we can reset is the administration password. Okay, I shall now hand you over to Kat, who will talk about the Students tab.
Thanks, Dan. So as we said, I'm going to head over to the Students tab now. The Students tab is where we can mass upload students, where we can delete, fully delete students, and also where we can restore those student accounts, and lastly pull some reports as well. So I'm going to show you all of those features. The first one being the student accounts section. You'll see that we have some students here, and we can see the first name, surname, but also what group they're in. So let's take a look at this first one here. This person's in 2 different groups, so we can see that they're in 2 different sections there. Second one down here is unassigned, and an unassigned student means that they are not part of any group in the site, which means that they are available to be deleted. Now, they're purely for cosmetic reasons and organisation reasons. You might want to delete these students, but they actually, as long as they're unassigned, they don't actually affect any costs on your site. They don't take up a license. If you're an unassigned student, you get to access your historical content, but you don't get anything new. Your results don't get fed. So it's kind of like a ghost account in the system. However, if you do find that you want to delete an unassigned student, maybe after a year or so, what you can do is, as long as they're unassigned, you can click the X on the right-hand side to delete the student. Okay, then, like before, they'll go into the deleted students section, where they can be restored if it's been a week, and after that, unfortunately, they'll be gone forever. Now, I do have to say that it's really important that you're definitely clear that you want to delete that student, because all the results will be gone. We do find with some customers that they like to keep students in for historical records reasons. So if a student maybe comes back in 2 years' time, they can just re-liven the accounts as long as they've not been fully deleted, and that can be quite an advantage. So just be aware of what you're doing there, and if and why you might want to do it, but that's how you fully delete students. In this section as well, we can also import student accounts. So this is going to be your mass upload. Usually on a site, people add student accounts just by email when you're logged in as a teacher. When we're logged in as an admin, we get the option to do a big mass upload, and that is quite simply just with an Excel file with these headers, as before with the teacher accounts, and that's how you can upload sort of 200 students in lots of different groups all at once. But again, if you want any more details on that, if you want any support to do that, we can help you, or you can click the question mark at the top there. But in essence, you upload the file, you press add, and then all those students will be filtered down into the correct groups. Okay, so the other thing I want to just draw your attention to was the deleted student section. As I said, that's where any fully deleted students will appear. And the last thing I want to show you in the Students tab is under the Student Account section on the left, there's also 2 different reports that we can pull. So we've got an All Students report. If I pull that, that's just going to be students that are on the site, just by name, and I believe what group they're in as well. And if we pull All Results, that's going to pull every single student that's on the site and their results, and that's all of their results. So those can be very, very big documents, so just be aware of that. Dan will mention this just in a moment, but I'm just going to touch on it now. If you want to limit that report that you pull, you'll need to go to the Settings tab, and you'll need to click Import Export on the left. And this section means that you can just untick, when you see here, fields for export of results, just untick what you don't want to see. So maybe you only want to see what modules they've done, or you just want to see when they last accessed. You can untick what you want, press OK, and then next time you pull that report, it'll be a lot smaller. All right, that's everything there is to know on the Students tab. I'm just going to briefly touch on the News tab, just show you what that looks like. You can see we've got 4 notifications here with some red icons to show that these are in red. And I'm now going to hand over to Dan to talk about the Settings tab.
Thanks, Kat. So under the Settings tab, okay, so this is controlling your personal domain, okay, so not just the administration or just one teacher account, it is everything that all your teachers and students will see. All right, now when we set up your account, we do as much as we can, or that is necessarily required to get you up and running, but please feel free to go in there, check, and certainly update any information if it is incorrect, because we've got it wrong when we set it up, or because there have been changes. Okay, so under settings, the first thing we come to there is the account. All right, so the account details again would be the administrator, and anything with an asterisk is mandatory. Obviously, the rest of it is optional. Okay, so we can fill those out. If we then move down to the General tab, under the General tab, we can change things like the welcome text. So when your learners actually put in the domain address, there can be a message that sort of greets them first. All right, so you can change this to be specific to your college. The content mapping we always leave as default by subject. Okay, and we can also change how we add accounts. Now, what we do sort of by default now is when we create a new account, it's called a short form with email address as username. Now, there is another option, which is to go to full form with all data, and that will then basically require you to put in, to choose a username, to put an email address in, to put their first and last name, etc., etc. So it requires a little bit more input from an administrator's point of view, whereas if we stick with short form, we purely put the email address in, and when the student or teacher logs in for the first time, they then create their own first name and last name. Now, if you get any students that like to try and be funny or clever and put the wrong name in and call themselves Donald Duck, don't worry, as a teacher, you can still go in and change the details, all right? Or likewise, if there is a spelling mistake. So we can do the welcome message there for the student, we can change, and we can also do a welcome message for the teachers. So again, if you want to put your custom message in, say this is the message that your students will receive once they get the self-generated email from the system. So you've added a student email or teacher email address to create a new account. This is the message that they would see. All right, so if there's any specific instructions that you want them to follow, please select custom message and then to put your own content in. There's some other functions in there. So allowing password reset via email is a really, really important one because it allows the learners or the teachers to do this themselves. Or you can also allow the teacher and administrator to set the password separately, as we showed you earlier. All right, there are a couple of other options then underneath, most of which are fine in the default setting. But if you've got any questions about those, please contact us. The next one then is the graphic design. So what you'll notice when you first log in, okay, is that we have normally set the colors for the site. So that's the red banner bit across the top, and also the highlighting color. So when Kat hovers over a menu on the left-hand side, we can see that that black line turns up. We can also set those colors. All right, again, if your company or college goes through a change because they've changed branding, etc., that is where you can set your custom colors, and you can also upload a logo, and which is there, as you can see with the clutch section there. Okay, or you can put a banner in as well. So again, if there are any changes and you need help with that, please reach out to us to help you. The next one then is the content. Okay, so here we can put in obviously additional content there and messages, and we've also got the email for feedback. So remember, when we set up the teacher account, we can choose whether they receive student feedback or not. If we don't put an email address in here, then the learner can get to choose which teacher account to send the comments to, which is really helpful if they get taught by multiple lecturers at the college. They can then choose the lecturer to email relevant to the content they're being taught. Or if you want it all to go back to one person and one person only, put an email address in there, and by default they would always go there. Okay, and again, there's some more options there that you can change. We've also got certificate templates there on the left-hand side. All right, now all those qualifications listed there will not apply to the UK market, but you are able to create your own templates. Okay, so obviously these do not replace the awarding body qualifications, but if you want to use them as kind of progress checks, if you're using Electude and your own little self-made courses to meet maybe kind of learners that aren't enrolled in a qualification, but they're here studying with your college to do a certain amount of content, you can actually give them like their own little certificate. Okay, just by hitting the plus, you can then obviously edit it, and then you can view the preview. So there, for example, that's an example of what the certificate would look like. If you don't put the details in, such as date of birth, etc., then obviously it won't show. but it will also show them what content they've passed and completed. And when you're setting these certificates up, you would then need to go in as a teacher and allocate a certificate against a course to be able to certificate against it. Now, we've also got the import-export, which Kat touched on earlier. All right, so one of the things I definitely want to draw your attention to here is the header row. Okay, so the header row is in your spreadsheet. When we put the kind of column headers in there, so surname, first name, username, etc., please make sure that is selected if you import your spreadsheet with those in. Okay, the system then knows to ignore that and will only take the data from below. Again, you can change what data you export in the top section, and also for import and export of all students further down, as well as teacher accounts. All right, so if you do it at this point, it saves you having to put the sort and filter function on in the spreadsheet after you've exported the results. And again, if their email address is the same as their username, why have the same column in there essentially twice? We've also got the external access, your license. Okay, so it'll tell you how many counters you've got set against your site. So remember, every time a learner logs in for the first time, since your license has been reset, then it will come off of one of those counters. You can also download all the active students, etc. there into another CSV file. Okay, you've also then got your privacy settings. Now, in the privacy settings, by default, all of these additional options are turned off. Okay, so it says just underneath there, limit personal data, yes. All right, so this allows you to select or deselect any of those options listed, so phone and mobile phone addresses, etc. Again, for our UK market, most of our customers do not require this information on their learners because it's held in a separate kind of learner management system run normally by the college. But if you do want to put those options in there, please select them, and then when the learner logs in for the first time and they put their first and last name in, they'll also see these fields such as mobile phone, date of birth, etc. to fill in as well. All right, so I know some of those areas we kind of skipped through. A lot of it isn't really relevant for our UK market, but if you do want to explore any of those other options, you have the help menu there on the right hand side with the question mark. Also, you reach out to Kat or myself and we will assist you. Okay, so I'm going to hand you back now to Kat, who's just going to close the webinar for us.
Thanks, Dan. So I'm now just going to draw your attention to the support section of our Electude website. Okay, so we go to electude.com, you'll see a support section, and here we can search for a question, we can see frequently asked questions, but what's really nice is there's actually an admin support section and teacher and student. So it'd be really great if you could introduce your colleagues to this section so they can get the support they need. Of course, reach out to myself and Dan if you need. I'll show you administrator support very quickly here. You can see we've got videos, we've got the manual, and some more advanced support as well on that left-hand side. So I just want to draw your attention to that. Also keep an eye on for Dan Perry and Kat Treanor on LinkedIn. We're always posting about new features and events on there. And do sign up to our newsletter if you can, because that's got all sorts of global news in there too, and UK specific stuff. As I said, I'm going to open up our contact page to finish, so please just print screen that and get in touch if you need us. But thank you to Dan, and thank you to you all for listening, and yeah, hope to see you soon.